When I received the job offer from Meridian Solutions, it felt like a turning point in my life. After 2 years of jumping between temporary contracts and short-term freelance gigs, I finally had what I'd dreamed of, a full-time remote position at a reputable marketing firm. The title wasn't flashy, junior marketing analyst, but to me, it meant everything. It meant stability. It meant finally being able to tell my parents that I'd made it. It meant I could exhale. The onboarding process was smooth. My manager, David, seemed relaxed and approachable on Zoom. He spoke often about the company's trust-based culture, how they prided themselves on giving employees autonomy, especially those working from home. "We don't micromanage here," he said with a warm smile during orientation. "We care about outcomes, not how many hours you're online." That one sentence stuck with me. It sounded so healthy. The first few weeks were a blur of meetings, onboarding videos, and familiarizing myself with Meridian's marketing platforms. My coworkers were kind, the projects engaging, and my small apartment in Portland became my new office. I set up a cozy corner with a standing desk, a second monitor, and even a tiny potted cactus I named Bean. Life felt like it was finally clicking into place. Every morning, I brewed coffee, lit a candle, and logged in early to go through emails before our daily stand-up meeting. I was eager to prove myself. I stayed late to double-check reports. I volunteered for extra data analysis. And though I was still relatively junior, I could see a path forward. Maybe I'd lead a team someday. Maybe I'd even get that promotion within a year. But something odd happened one Tuesday afternoon. It was raining hard. The kind of cold, steady rain that makes the city feel wrapped in a gray blanket. I was working on a quarterly review deck, pulling key performance indicators from our recent ad campaigns, when my mouse hesitated. I don't mean I hesitated. I mean my cursor froze. Just for a split second. At first, I didn't think much of it. Maybe I had too many tabs open. Maybe my Wi-Fi hiccuped. But then it happened again, this time while I was reviewing internal documents labeled confidential, Q4 strategy. My screen stuttered, almost like it was buffering, but I wasn't streaming anything. It was subtle, but noticeable. I restarted my system. Things went back to normal, for a while. Later that week, the same thing occurred while I was composing a Slack message to a coworker. I typed the word client and my text box froze mid-word. This time, I frowned. I knew my computer well, and these weren't normal bugs. The pauses were short, yes, but oddly timed, as if someone was peeking in. I laughed it off in my head. "You're just being paranoid," I told myself. "You've been watching too many tech thriller shows." Still, the feeling lingered. The kind of prickling at the back of your neck when you think someone is standing behind you, but turn around and see no one. I pushed it aside. I had work to do. But that was just the beginning. The uneasiness wouldn't go away. For the next couple of days, I tried to ignore it. I told myself I was imagining things. After all, no one else on my team had mentioned anything strange. We had a group Slack chat where we talked about client deliverables and occasionally joked about our pets, late-night cravings, or weird coffee habits. No one said a word about freezing screens or suspicious software. But I couldn't let it go. That Thursday, I finished a team call early and sat quietly at my desk, trying to replicate the odd behavior. I opened one of our more secure folders on the shared drive, client pitch templates, the kind usually limited to senior staff. My screen jittered. 2 seconds later, it froze. Just for a moment. Then resumed. I minimized the folder, and that's when I saw it, a tiny window hiding behind my browser. A gray box, barely noticeable, with a title bar that read, "Supervisor View, Active Session." My breath caught in my throat. I clicked it, but it immediately minimized itself. I tried again. Same thing. I opened Task Manager, scrolled carefully through the list of processes, and there it was, one I didn't recognize, securewatchagent.exe. That name sent a chill through me. I copied the process name and searched online. The first result made my stomach drop. Secure Watch Agent, Live Employee Monitoring Tool. Allows supervisors to view screens in real time, log keystrokes, and access user activity reports. I sat frozen in my chair, staring at the screen. Someone had been watching me. Not just checking my login time or seeing how long I spent in Excel. No, this was real-time screen monitoring. Someone, presumably my boss, had access to every click, every file, every private Slack message. I suddenly thought back to that moment I replied to my sister about mom's health, or when I quickly checked my bank app to transfer rent. My hands turned cold. I felt violated. It wasn't just about company property. This was my personal space. My home. My computer. No one had told me I'd be under surveillance. There had been no onboarding document about tracking software, no training module explaining this feature. Meridian prided itself on being a modern company. How could they allow this? My mind raced back to the team meetings. David always kept his camera off, always sounded distracted. Had he been watching one of us while we spoke? Was he watching me right now? I slammed my laptop shut. The silence in my apartment was deafening. All I could hear was the rain still trickling outside and the echo of my own thoughts. I stood, pacing, trying to calm my racing heart. My mind spiraled. Was this legal? Was it in the contract? Was I overreacting? I pulled out my employee handbook from my onboarding folder and flipped through it. Buried in the digital usage policy was a vague sentence. Employee activity may be monitored for compliance and productivity purposes. That was it. No mention of real-time screen viewing. No indication that this went beyond general metrics. I grabbed a notebook and began documenting everything. Time of the freeze. Name of the file I had open. Screenshot of the minimized window title. Secure Watch process ID from Task Manager. I even used my phone to take a video while I demonstrated the freeze and opened the Task Manager again. I didn't sleep that night. At 2 a.m., I typed and retyped a draft email to HR. I didn't want to sound paranoid, but I needed answers. By 3:30 a.m., I hit send. Subject: Unauthorized screen monitoring, urgent inquiry. Dear HR, I have reason to believe that my screen activity is being monitored in real time without my knowledge or consent. I have attached relevant screenshots and a video. I'd like to request clarification on company policy regarding this and whether Secure Watch Agent has been officially deployed across employee systems. I ended the email with a polite but firm line. Please confirm whether this level of monitoring has been authorized and communicated to staff, as I have found no record of it in my training materials or company handbook. I closed my laptop and sat in silence, staring out the window as the sky began to lighten. Something fundamental had shifted. What once felt like an opportunity now felt like a trap. And the worst part was, I didn't yet know just how deep it went. I woke up the next morning with a dry throat and a buzzing in my chest that wouldn't go away. The anxiety I had pushed down the day before came roaring back the moment I opened my laptop. There it was. A reply from HR, timestamped just after 7 a.m. Subject: Unauthorized screen monitoring, urgent inquiry. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. We are currently investigating the matter. In the meantime, we kindly ask that you do not discuss this with any other employees until we've completed a formal review. Best regards. HR Compliance Team. It wasn't exactly reassuring. It was cold, formal, sterile. Not even a direct acknowledgement of the evidence I had sent. Just a canned response asking me to stay silent. It felt like I was being told to sit down and shut up. The irony of it made me want to laugh. I had trusted this company. I had pushed myself hard for them, often working late into the night, volunteering for tedious assignments, and even skipping lunch breaks just to prove I belonged. And now, instead of addressing a serious breach of privacy, they were asking for silence? I spent the day trying to work like nothing had happened. But everything felt off. I kept watching that little hidden window in the background, half expecting it to blink or flicker or pop up again. I didn't open any personal tabs. I didn't chat with coworkers. I didn't even check my own email outside of work, just in case. At 2 p.m., I received a meeting invite from HR. It was for the following morning. The subject line was vague. Meeting internal systems policy, attendance required. That did it. The panic that had been simmering all day finally boiled over. My hands shook. I felt like I had walked into a war zone blindfolded. Would I be reprimanded for digging into this? Were they trying to cover it up? I needed more information, and I needed to protect myself. I reached out to a friend of mine, Leah, who worked in corporate compliance for a different firm. She wasn't just smart, she was sharp, and she didn't tolerate BS. When I told her what I'd found, her first question was, "Did they disclose this to you in writing?" "No," I said quietly. "There's one vague line in the handbook about productivity monitoring, but nothing specific." "That's not enough," she said bluntly. "Live screen monitoring without explicit written consent? That's not just shady, it could be illegal depending on your state's employee privacy laws. You need to keep everything. Every screenshot. Every log." She also warned me not to let them manipulate me into feeling like I was the problem. The moment someone makes you doubt what you saw, they've won. So I spent the next few hours compiling a comprehensive file. Video proof of the supervisor view window. A screen recording showing the secure watch agent process live in Task Manager. Timestamps of when the freezing occurred. Backups of every email and chat related to this situation. A copy of my employee handbook. Notes from my initial orientation, including David's exact phrasing about no micromanagement. That night, I barely slept again. I rehearsed the upcoming meeting in my head over and over, how I would respond if they deflected, if they downplayed it, if they turned it around on me. I had never been in this position before. I wasn't confrontational by nature. But I was tired of being passive in the face of things that felt so clearly wrong. I even drafted a short statement to read if my nerves got the best of me. I joined this company with the belief that I'd be treated with trust and respect. Discovering that my screen activity has been monitored in real time without my knowledge or consent makes me feel deeply violated. I have documented proof, and I need to know, was this authorized, and why wasn't I told? I knew I wasn't just doing this for me. If this kind of surveillance was happening to me, there was a good chance it was happening to others, people who might not have noticed yet, or worse, who did and said nothing out of fear. I wasn't going to be silent. I was going to show up to that meeting. Prepared. Calm. Unapologetically assertive. The next morning, I sat at my desk in a crisp blue blouse, hair pulled back, heart thudding like a war drum in my chest. My coffee sat untouched. I didn't dare sip it for fear my hand might shake. At exactly 9:59 a.m., I clicked the meeting link. A quiet Zoom room popped open. For a moment, it was just me and a blank screen with the words "waiting for host to start the meeting" floating in the center. I sat up straighter, repeating the mantra I'd rehearsed in my head all night: be calm. Be clear. Be brave. Then, the screen flickered, and two others appeared. Claire, the HR compliance officer, early 40s, sharp eyes behind wireframe glasses. David, my manager, the same man who once told me in orientation, "We believe in trust over tracking." He looked tired. Unshaven. Still trying to wear that casual confidence, but it didn't land the same. "Hi, everyone," Claire started with a professional smile. "Thank you for joining." This meeting is to discuss some concerns raised regarding internal system tools and employee awareness. I nodded silently, my hands resting over my notes just out of frame. David cleared his throat and chimed in. Before we go further, I just want to say, first, I had no intention of making anyone uncomfortable. The software in question was installed on select systems for operational oversight, not personal surveillance. That word, oversight, made me bristle. Claire looked at me. Can you walk us through what you discovered and how you came across it? I took a breath and began, voice steady. I noticed small freezes on my screen when accessing internal documents. Eventually, I found a hidden window labeled Supervisor View and traced the process to something called Secure Watch Agent. I looked it up, it's real-time screen monitoring software. I was never informed this would be installed or used. I checked my handbook. There's no mention of live monitoring. David interrupted. To be fair, it wasn't live monitoring all the time, only during high-priority project phases or when we needed to ensure deadlines were being met. It's standard in many firms. I looked directly at the camera. David, whether it was always active or not isn't the point. You watched my screen without telling me. That's not standard. That's deceptive. And you didn't just violate my privacy, you violated company policy. Claire glanced at her notes. She's correct. Our remote work policy states any monitoring tools must be disclosed explicitly in writing with acknowledgement from the employee. We reviewed your personnel file. There's no signed disclosure. David shifted uncomfortably. Look, it was something IT rolled out months ago during a vendor partnership. It was meant to be temporary. I should have said something. But it wasn't malicious. But it was hidden, I replied sharply. You made it invisible. You chose secrecy over transparency. That matters. Claire turned to him. David, did you request access to this tool directly? He hesitated. Yes. I asked IT to install it on junior staff laptops, just a few. I thought it would help monitor progress. Especially for new hires. There it was. The quiet confirmation I already knew. He had singled us out. He had singled me out. I felt a deep, slow burn rising in my chest, but I stayed calm. I joined this company with the belief that I would be respected, not just as an employee, but as a person, I said. This, what you did, undermines every value this company claims to stand for. And frankly, I'm not sure I can work under someone who doesn't trust his team enough to tell them when he's watching. A long silence filled the Zoom room. Claire finally spoke, her tone clipped but professional. We will be conducting a formal internal review of all employee monitoring tools and practices. In the meantime, David, you are to disable all instances of Secure Watch Agent immediately. I'll notify IT myself. David mumbled a reluctant understood. Claire turned to me. Thank you for bringing this forward. You've done the right thing, and we'll make sure this is addressed appropriately. I nodded. But I didn't feel victorious. I felt exhausted. The call ended. I closed my laptop and just sat there. My apartment was quiet except for the low hum of the fridge in the kitchen. My eyes drifted to the cactus on my desk bean, sitting there like always, untouched by all this corporate ugliness. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even afraid. I was simply done. That night, I opened a fresh document and began writing my resignation letter. Not because I lost the battle, but because I had already won. I had called out a violation and stood my ground. But I no longer wanted to work in a place where I had to fight to be seen as human. My resignation wasn't impulsive. It was the result of too many broken promises, too much unspoken surveillance, and the crushing realization that the place I had once viewed as a professional home had quietly built a cage around me. The day after the confrontation, I received 2 emails. One from HR, confirming that a full audit of monitoring software had been initiated. The other, more impersonal, was a company-wide notice stating that previous oversight tools would be paused pending policy updates. No mention of SecureWatch by name. No acknowledgement of the violation. Just sanitized corporate language meant to bury what had really happened. I reread my resignation letter one last time before clicking send. I kept it respectful, clear, and unflinching. I thanked them for the opportunity, expressed my hope that the company would grow from the situation, and ended with the line. For me, trust is not a bullet point in a mission statement. It's a daily practice, and once it's broken, it's hard to rebuild. Within the hour, David sent me a Slack message. Hey. Saw your notice. Can we talk? I stared at the message for a long time before replying. I think everything's already been said. I wish you well. I didn't owe him a chance to defend himself. Not after what he'd done. I gave the company 2 weeks' notice, but emotionally, I had already left. Those final days were surreal. My coworkers were warm and kind, and most had no idea what had transpired behind the scenes. I didn't tell them. Not out of fear, but because I didn't want my exit to become gossip. I quietly handed off my projects, cleaned up my files, and left a note in our shared team chat on my final day. Thank you all for making this team a space where I could grow. I'm stepping away to explore new paths, but I'll always appreciate the collaboration and friendships we built here. Wishing you the best. That afternoon, I unplugged my work laptop for the last time. I sat in the silence of my apartment, letting it wash over me. There was no applause, no big send-off, but there was a profound peace in choosing to walk away on my own terms. The following week, I started fresh. No job lined up. No concrete plan. Just me, my skills, and the knowledge that I had stood up for myself when it mattered most. I signed up for a cybersecurity course, not because I wanted to pivot careers, but because I wanted to understand. If this had happened to me, it could happen to anyone. I began drafting an article about the experience, not naming names, but sharing the journey. It was therapeutic and surprisingly empowering. A few weeks later, an email popped into my inbox. It was from a startup founder I had met years ago at a tech mixer. She had read my article and wanted to talk. We scheduled a call. One conversation turned into another. Within a month, I joined her small team, fully remote, no spyware, no micromanagement. Just trust and accountability. It felt like breathing fresh air for the first time in months. Now, when I sit down at my new desk, Bean still loyally by my side, I know no one's watching over my shoulder. I know that my work is valued for what it is, not because someone watched me do it. And more importantly, I know that I have a voice. Sometimes, the most dangerous surveillance isn't the software installed behind your back, it's